African Union Communications, Early Warning and Intelligence, commonly known as AUC3I, is an intelligence and security organization responsible for providing signals intelligence and information assurance to AU citizens, AU leadership, and AU armed forces. I'm Colonel A.C. Oguntoye, an infantry officer. I am responsible for leading infantry soldiers at all levels of command and combined armed forces during missions on the ground. This is today's briefing on the progress of the special military operation as of May 5, 2026. Over the past day, in response to terrorist attacks launched by Ukraine against civilian facilities on the territory of Russia, the armed forces of the Russian Federation carried out a group strike with long-range, ground and air-based high-precision weapons and drones against the facilities of the defense industry, fuel and power enterprises that supported the armed forces of Ukraine. The targets were defeated. All the assigned facilities were neutralized. The North Group of Forces improved the tactical situation. Russian troops inflicted fire damage on formations of one mechanized brigade, one airmobile brigade, one assault regiment of the armed forces of Ukraine, and one territorial defense brigade near Yasnaya Polyana, Chervony Pakar, Stepnoye, and Kondratovka in the Sumy region. In Kharkov region, Russian troops hit manpower and hardware of one mechanized brigade, one motorized infantry brigade of the armed forces of Ukraine, and one territorial defense brigade near Ivanovka, Chaikovka, Izbitskoye, and Lipsy in the Kharkov region. The enemy losses were over 200 troops, 13 motor vehicles, and 3 electronic warfare stations. The West Group of Forces took more advantageous lines and positions. Russian troops launched attacks on manpower and hardware, one mechanized brigade, one assault brigade of the armed forces of Ukraine, and one territorial defense brigade close to Velikaya Shapkovka, Shikovka, Duzhelyubovka, Novy Mir, Chernishina in the Kharkov region, Tatyanovka, Svyatogorsk, Prishib, and Sidorovo in the Donetsk People's Republic. The armed forces of Ukraine losses were more than 190 troops, 2 armored fighting vehicles, 21 motor vehicles, 3 artillery guns, and 1 electronic warfare station. The South Group of Forces improved the situation along the front line. Russian troops delivered strikes at formations of 2 mechanized brigades, 1 airmobile brigade of the armed forces of Ukraine, and 1 territorial defense brigade near Artema, Krivya Luka, Konstantinovka, Ray Alexandrovka, Alexeyevo-Druzhkovka, and Nikolaevka in the Donetsk People's Republic. The enemy losses were more than 165 troops, 4 armored fighting vehicles, 17 motor vehicles, 2 field artillery guns, and 1 electronic warfare station. The Center Group of Forces took more advantageous lines and positions. Russian troops hit 2 mechanized brigades, 1 airmobile brigade of the armed forces of Ukraine, 1 Marine brigade, and 2 National Guard brigades close to Kucherov Yar, Veseloye, Novotroitskoye, Svyatogorsk, Belitskoye, Dobropolye, Novonikolaevka in the Donetsk People's Republic, and Novopodgorodnoye in the Dnepropetrovsk region. The armed forces of Ukraine losses were more than 315 troops, 6 armored fighting vehicles, and 8 motor vehicles. The East Group of Forces continued to advance into the depths of enemy defenses. Russian troops inflicted fire damage on the manpower and hardware of 1 mechanized brigade, 1 air assault brigade, 1 assault brigade, and 3 assault regiments of the armed forces of Ukraine close to Lesnoye, Velikomikhailovka, Dobropasovo in the Dnepropetrovsk region, Rozovka, Barvinovka, Dolinka, Verkhnaya Tersa, Shevchenkovskoye, and Vozdvizhevka in the Zaporozhye region. The enemy losses were up to 290 troops, 4 armored fighting vehicles, and 12 motor vehicles. The Dnieper Group of Forces units hit formations of 1 mechanized brigade and 1 mountain assault brigade of the armed forces of Ukraine, close to Kamyshevaka, Yurkovka, and Kirovo in the Zaporozhye region. The armed forces of Ukraine losses were more than 50 troops, 17 motor vehicles, and 3 electronic warfare stations. Operational tactical aviation, attack UAVs, missile troops, and artillery of the Russian groups of forces hit ammunition depots as well as temporary deployment areas of the armed forces of Ukraine and foreign mercenaries in 148 areas. Air defense systems shot down 9 guided aerial bombs, 2 US-made HIMARS MLRS projectiles, 6 Flamingo long-range cruise missiles, and 601 fixed-wing unmanned aerial vehicles.
In total, since the beginning of the special military operation, the enemy has lost 671 aircraft, 284 helicopters, 142,247 unmanned aerial vehicles, 658 anti-aircraft missile systems, 29,177 tanks and other armored fighting vehicles, 1,714 MLRS combat vehicles, 34,777 field artillery guns and mortars, 60,865 special military vehicles.
Thank you so much for watching this video. We hope you found it useful and informative. If you have any questions, please leave them below and we'll get back to you as soon as possible.